So let's go now to our next task. So I've looked at docs, I've looked at sheets, I've looked at drawings. I'm now going to look at using Google Slides. Now, Google Slides, again, is exactly the same as our trusty tool, PowerPoint. It has exactly the same features, and there are a few elements that are missing, but again, it's about keeping it simple. At the end of the day, it should be a tool just to engage the learners. They can still add text, they can still add speaker notes for presentation view. When they insert a new slide, they can change the layout. So they've still got all the same features that you would have on your kind of Microsoft PowerPoint. The great thing again as well, once they've created this piece of work, you can download it and still open it on PowerPoint or Word. So it doesn't have to be opened exclusively. I can actually save the work that's created exclusive to open it on Word, and I'll show you how to do that. So here's my students' work. They've created a very basic version, and they're going to turn that in. I'm now going to go back to my tutor view. And you can see there, I think someone asked about it being organized. You can see how it's automatically created the folder in the class, and I can see the piece of work that's just being created by this student. And I can open it there and then. What a lovely piece of work they've created. Now, what I can do, say I've got this on Google, but I'm going to be going somewhere where I know I'm not going to have internet access. I can actually download this, and I can download it in a range of different files. So I can download it as a PowerPoint file, PDF, plain text. So if I download it as a PowerPoint, I can save it and open it on another piece of software, and it will still work perfectly fine. It doesn't make any kind of difference. It keeps the fonts, keeps the animation absolutely perfect. No problems with that at all. So that's slides. We've looked at docs. Nice, simple tools for our learners to use and for us to play with and to kind of suit their needs. So let's just, I have a long list here of things I'm going through. So how are we all going so far? Okay.
Fantastic, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. It's the main thing is making sure the pace is okay. I wanted to whiz through those because I really want to look at using. Someone asked a couple of weeks ago about using Google Forms to make quizzes. So I'm going to be looking at that. I'm also going to be looking at Jamboard, which I bet no one's heard of. Neil Thomas, have you heard of Jamboard?
Jamboard.
Good, because otherwise we'd be ruined. So let's look at the next task. Now, one of the things I want to look at is how we can create templates using the Google software to upload as an assignment. And I'm going to use that by looking at using a piece of software called Jamboard. So let's show you my teacher screen. Now, what you'll see, if you go, when you're on Google, you'll see these dots up in the top right, and you'll see quite a few different little tools and bits and pieces. Ellen loves Jamboard. Brilliant. So Jamboard is something that I know not a great deal of people have actually heard of. I've not really heard of it a great deal here. You can see I've been practicing and playing around with it. But Jamboard in its simplest sense, it's effectively Padlet. It's a free version of Padlet, and you can have as many as you want, which I wish I'd known before I paid the subscription for Padlet Premium, but there are benefits to it. So I've just opened up here an Untitled Jam, and I'm gonna give this a name. I'm gonna give it a great name called Testing My Jam. There we go. Now, what Jamboard is a collaborative page where we can share bits and pieces, but I'm going to use it to create a template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sticky note. I'm going to call it, I'm going to say, what is great about science? What science do I love? As you can tell, I'm not a science teacher. Okay, so please, science teachers, walk away. How many sciences do I like? Do I study? Okay. So I can put these little post-it notes wherever I want. So I've just put these 3 post-it notes there. I can give it a funky background. Well, when I say funky, I can put some grid squares on it. That's as funky as I've done this evening. And I can make some little annotations on it, and I can put some things on it and stuff. So I've created this Jamboard. Now what I'm going to do, once I'm happy with that, yeah, I'm happy. I'm gonna close it down, and I'm going to create a new assignment. This one's going to be called Complete My Jamboard. Now I can add from here a file from my Google Drive. And I've just created this one. So what I've done is I've added this to the board, and I can allow students to edit the file. So add your answers below. Now by doing this, there's a few things I can do here. So I can either let the students just look at the file, they can edit the file, or make a copy for each student. So I can, if I have just students can edit the file, I'm going to have it. It's going to go out to all of my students in my class. There's no mark date on this. Once I'm happy, I'm going to assign now. So now, let's go to my student screen. Here's my student. They've just seen the Jamboard. So what they're going to do is they can click on that. It will open on their computer, and they can add their answer. So my student, he's going to add his sticky note. He's going to put it in blue. What's great about science? And he's going to say, there you go, because he's a pesky child, and that's what he does. Put their answer on. And there we go. So they've now put their answers on there. So that's my student. Now let's look at the other student. He's going to go back to his classroom. He also sees the Jamboard screen. Now, because I've shared it with all of the students, they can see not just the answers from one student, they can see it from mine. So now they can actually add to that Jamboard. They can all access the Jamboard at the same time if you set it. Can you use Jamboard outside Google Classroom? Yeah, of course you can. You can use it outside the classroom. If you want to use it outside the classroom, you go to Share. And all you do is you hit Share, and you can send the link to the students you want to share it to. Do their changes save automatically? Yes, they do. It's wonderful, Amanda. You don't have to click File or Save As. It's automatically saved. So now let's go to my next student. They're going to put their answer on there, but they're going to put an image in of, I don't know, because that's the sort of person they are. Fantastic. So it doesn't just have to be text. So they're going to put that picture of a cow there because that's what they love about science. They love cows. Fantastic. Now again, you can notice I've not shared, not saved or anything. Automatically saved. As soon as they're happy, all they do is they click mark as done, and they have completed that work. We go back to my teacher's screen. Actually, no, I'll go back to my other student because he hasn't submitted it yet. Mark as done. And then we'll go back to my teacher's screen. And I can see that 2 have completed the work. And there's my 2 who's handed it in. Fantastic. Now, again, I can give little feedback to those students. I can send them a message. So if I want to say learner 4, I can send them a message, and that's absolutely fine. Got some more little questions going. How do you know who has written what? How do you get to Jamboard? My laptop says I need to contact my administrator for access. So for that, Helen, make sure you use Google Chrome. It shouldn't be an issue because it's an online tool. You can choose edit any file that you post. Now, they can't if you don't set it for that. And I'll show you how to edit, allow that. They can't delete each other's comments. So if I go to the one that they've created, now, as the teacher on this, what I can do is I can go, where is it? That is my teacher's screen. Now I can't, on the slides and the others, I can see who has done what, but not on the jam. I'm going to have a look at that because there's got to be a way to do that. So if it's okay, I'll have a look to see whether I can see who's done it individually for the Jamboard. But it's more just a nice little collaborative tool. Now what I can do for this is I can set it. So if I go to setting, I'm going to create another assignment for them. I'll add the file I've just done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a different file. I created one a while ago. Now I can have it where they can view it, they can edit it, and they can make a copy for each student. I'm going to have this as unmarked. And I'm going to assign it. Now what this is done by creating the one that I have done and setting it for each student. Yeah, that's a great idea. So Ellen's just said if you've done it, put their name at the bottom of the post-it note. So let's go to my student. They'll see they've got another task now to complete. So here's the work here. And this is what I've created for them. So this is, again, this is where it comes down to you and your subject knowledge and your specialism as to what you can do. So I created a really basic little task for them. So parts of a flower, and they can just drag and drop where they, you can tell my knowledge of science is poor. I'm just going to whack it here. This is where all the science teachers turn in their grave and just go, no, no. So that little task there, again, because I set it for each individual one, only that learner has created the work. So I can get rid of that. They can turn it in when they're happy. Yeah, fantastic. We can go to my other student now. Again, remember that they've got this as an individual piece of work. So it's back to how it was originally. So they can now put their answers as to where they think each of them are. And once they're happy, they go, yeah, that looks good to me. They can turn that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my teacher's view. There's my Jamboard 2 task. I can see that 2 have handed in. And there we go. I can see there's my learner 4 and there's my learner 5 who's handed in. Again, I can see the Google Drive folder. There's the 2 documents. You can see how learner 5 has put their answers. You know, I can just double click and I can open. So that's learner 5. So I can mark their work. I can see their work there. If I click on the work when it's in that assignment, I can add the comments down the side again. So I can put little bits on there. And that's, again, that's using Jamboard, but it's using it as an individual task as opposed to a collaborative task for the students. Okay. So I pinged through that quite quick. How's everyone doing so far? All okay? How are we doing, Verena? You good? I'm just going to pick on random people as I go through just to see how you're doing. Paul, you're looking over the moon. That's fantastic. So that's good. All good, Andy. Thank you. How do you make the file again to put the work into? Okay, great question, Lauren. The great thing about this is that you don't actually have to make the file. It's wonderful. I'll show you again how to create an assignment and make a file. So I'm going to go back to my classroom. So let me just show you the classroom. There it is. I'm going to set an assignment for them. Set a little assignment. I'm going to call this one, how do you make, oh, keep it clean. How do you make a folder? Okay, so once I'm happy, I will assign that to the students. Now what that does is it automatically creates the folder. So now if I go to my students view, they're going to see that next task. And they're going to create a Google document. So this is my student now who's creating it using a Google document. And they're going to say, that's my student, petulant child. So they've put this little comment in for me. And as soon as they've done that, they're going to turn that work in. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to go back to my teacher's view. So here's my teacher's view. And you can see here the class drive folder. And I can see my drive classroom. It automatically creates these. And there's one called, how do you make a folder for the assignment? And there's my learner's work. They've automatically put it in. So it's very quick. Thank you, Sarah, and I'm glad for that. Google Chrome doesn't work on my work laptop. What I would ask then is, if you haven't got Google Chrome, the order kind of goes Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, and then Opera. If it doesn't work, use Firefox. Firefox is lovely. It's nice. So, what's next on my list? Google Forms. Someone went mad for Google Forms. They were loving the Google Forms. So, let me just close down these. I've got so many little windows open. Now, my aim next week is I'm going to show you some third-party tools that we can use. So I'm going to go through things like Nearpod, Mentimeter. I've got Padlets on the list. I've got Socrative. I've got Glisser. I've got some other bits and pieces that are quite funky to jazz up our classes. But we can do it quite nicely with some of the Google tools that are there. So I've got here, what I'm going to look at is, well, you can't even see it. So I'm just going to type in Google Forms. Now, Google Forms has got, we're going to go for personal, not business, just keep it simple. Google Forms is quite nice because you can do it as a range of different tools. I can use it as a questionnaire, or I can do it as a quiz. So to do it as a questionnaire, the first thing is leave it as it is. I'm going to give it a nice title. Questionnaire test. I can give them a question. Again, it's just literally left-hand clicking. So I can put a question there. So I can have it as multiple choice. I can also have Likert scale, multiple choice. They can put a date or a time. So again, if you're doing invitations to send out, so if I add another question, I can put there a time and bits and pieces. Now, again, it's automatically saved. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep that there for the time being. And I'm going to close that one down. And I'm going to create another one now. Because the questionnaire one's quite basic, but the ones that people love are making quizzes and fun things for our students. So I'm going to show you how to create a basic Google quiz. The first thing to do before you get any started is you've got to go to the little cog and go settings. So again, cog at the top right, settings, and then you'll see quizzes. And all you have to do is hit make this a quiz. Because what that does then is it gives you the option to pick whichever is the correct answer. You can assign points values. I've got a few different options. I can either, they get the mark straight away or later. So I can return the mark later on if I feel like it. So I'm going to have it immediately after each submission. I'm going to save that one. And I'm going to call this one Test About Stuff. Okay, so here's question one. So all I do is I put the question in. Again, I've got the options of how I want to put this. File upload, I can add an image. I'll show you how to do that in a second. So what is, so.
Because using it actually online rather than doing photos and then uploading it, you know? For Ruby, that's good for Ruby. It's straight on.
Okay, so I've put my question in. I've got my 3 different answers, and then I'm going to go to my answer key. Now, because I don't believe in the contractions, because you shouldn't do it, not at academic level, we're then going to assign points. So I'm going to give this one 5 points if they get that correct. I've selected what the correct answer is, and then I click done. And that's that. Let's add another question. Again, I can have a file upload, so I can put a larger file on there. So if they want to do it off a, say you've got a piece of text or a picture on a Google Docs, I can do that one. I can put a picture in. So I'm going to put it off my Google image search. So I'm going to put, I've got a thing for cow. I saw a lovely cow earlier, actually. I'll put that cow in. Again, very simple. Just put in the answers. And once I've done it, I can go to answer key, click which is the correct answer. Of course, it's a cow. And then you're going to get 1 point for that one. And then done. Again, it may seem like, if you want to add images in, there's actually, you could put, there's quite a few different things in there. So, it's all about what you're searching for. Because it's connected to Google, you've got the entirety of the, the kind of the Google. There we go. Let's put in a helium molecule. Wonderful. You've got loads there for you to play around with and create. So, you've got lots of options there for you to utilize. It's all about what you want to use it for. And it's kind of about playing around. Great question, Neil. So Neil's asked about how to get the responses. I will show you why. So I created my quiz. I'm going to make it, just test through how it looks. Lovely, happy with that. That's wonderful. I'll give it a name. Wonderful, test about stuff. Now let's assign it to my student. So I said I'm going to assign two different things. So firstly, I'm going to assign my questionnaire that I did. So the questionnaire is slightly different. Do this. That's how I talk to all my students. It works. Top tip. I'm then going to add my quiz. So again, because it's the last thing I did, it automatically connects to my Google Drive that I've created. Let's go to my student screen. We'll go to my mods. We'll try and avoid that child. So let's go to the questionnaire. So that all they do is they click on the link. They can put the time in. And they submit. So that's the questionnaire. Now I've allowed them multiple responses, but actually in the settings, you can do it where they can submit only once. Let's go to my other student. They're going to go to the questionnaire as well. They're going to agree. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my screen. Now the key thing, once I've created that document, I think someone asked about where is my answers. So what you need to do is you need to go back to where you created that questionnaire. And what you'll see at the top, you'll see questions and you'll see responses. I go to responses, and what it will do is it will automatically set it into lovely little bar chart. So I've got 100% for Father Ted, and I've had 2 responses for that. I can look at it from an individual level, so I can look at who's put in what. Again, if you're doing a questionnaire, I'd normally say, write your name, what is your name, or something like that, or what's your email address, so it's a bit easier to respond. But what you've got to do is you've got to reopen that file to get that completed. Let's go back to my students again, and they're going to look at doing this quiz now. So I'm going to go back to Google Forms. Okay, that student is going to put that answer. They're going to say it's a cat. They're going to submit. Wonderful. Now they can straight away, I've allowed them to view their score straight away. So they can see, yes, it's not that fantastic. Let's go to my other student. They're going to do the test. Fantastic. And they're going to submit as well. Now, the great thing I like about creating it this way is we're going to go back now to, so I've gone back into my drive to see where I created my Google Forms. And I can go to my responses. And here I can see how many points they scored. I can see how many of them got that answer correct and that creature and so on. Now, if I have a large number of students, I'm going to have a huge amount of data there. But the great thing I can do is this little logo here says create spreadsheet. Now I can do this when it's a questionnaire. I can do this when it's a test. So I can create a new spreadsheet. And what this does is this uses Google Sheets. Google Sheets exactly the same as Excel. It's got all the kind of basic features. It hasn't got all of them, hasn't got pivot tables and bits and pieces, but it's got the generic ones. So again, what I would always say is have a question on there such as, what is your name? And I can see the score of the person, when they went online, what their answer was. The same if I did the questionnaire. I go to the responses and I can get that as a Google spreadsheet for me. So again, if you're looking to collate data and you're looking to get their answers put together, I've used this with a number of my students. It's such a simple way to get everything all merged together in one area. I know SurveyMonkey charges you after a certain amount. This doesn't. And again, I can go to File and I can download it as an Excel spreadsheet. So if I do want it as an Excel spreadsheet at the end, it's already set for me to do that. So that's a really nice little tool for us to use. Can use this in Seesaw. Again, Joe, I'm going to check that one out. I don't see a problem with it being used in Seesaw at all because it's an online tool, so it shouldn't be an issue. And the folders are automatically organized by the order created. Yeah. It's the most recent first, so it's always in that order. So in that one, we've looked at quite a few bits and pieces, really. The key thing I'll always say to everybody with this is play around with it. You guys are the specialists in your field and have a really good understanding. The recording of this session, if it works this week, I hope it does. I'm going to put it I'm going to send it to Beth and she's going to ping it out to all of you.
Right.
Is it possible to look at grouping children? Great question, Jane. Again, if I go back to when I set the assignment, I can, so say I've got these students here, what I would say to you is, rather than have it in one big classroom like that, I would differentiate it from the main home screen. Because remember, you can have up to 1,000 classes. So here you can see, if I go to it now, you can see my screen. So you may have like Google Classroom 2 higher, Google Classroom 1 lower. Now, when I set a task, so say I'm going to assign a work for them, I can set it for actually other classes as well. So even though I've got my higher group, my intermediate and my foundation group in 3 different classrooms, I can actually go, well, actually, I'm going to set this assignment for 3 different classes. So it doesn't just have to be, I don't have to go and pick through. I can differentiate my learners into their own classrooms. Because I think one of the things I looked at last week, I said about just putting stuff in the stream, just sharing things like, what YouTube videos have you watched this week? just to kind of build up a bit of a rapport. What I found a lot with my students, we're using Microsoft Teams at the university I work at, and just having that kind of informal thing has been really quite nice, just to put stuff on there, just to say, hi guys, have you read anything good? What books are you reading? And you can, if you differentiate it per class, you can still send the assignments out to them. So great question, thank you. Is it easy to change children from one class to another? Doddle, absolute doddle. If I have a student in a classroom and I want to move them over, all I have to do is go to people and then add, invite the students, and I just type in the email address, and it automatically updates them and puts them in that class for me to do. So absolute doddle, it's lovely. Are they then aware that they've moved them? They may see, because the classroom will have like a different name maybe. So you may have like Google Classroom 2 Higher, Google Classroom 2 Intermediate. It's only really if you have a different name for the classroom, otherwise they wouldn't. Any other questions at all about the kind of things we've looked at today? Can a student be in more than one classroom? Yes, they can be in as many as you want them to be in. It's not a problem at all. Okay. Like I said, it's been quite fast paced because I wanted to ping them in. If you move them, are they able to join a Hangout video call? Ah, thank you. Hangouts. I knew I'd missed something. I knew I'd missed something. Let me show you Hangouts. I did have, look, I have full notes and everything. Quickly before you go. Hangouts. I can see you all want to run off. So I missed the first part of Jamboard. I will show that once I've done Hangouts, if that's okay, Jane. So Google Hangouts, for those that have not used it before, is a phone messaging service where you can have chats with your students, video call them. Now, the thing to remember with Google Hangouts is you can only have 10 people on at one time. Unlike Zoom, which is up to 1,000, I think. But Hangouts, you can have 10 students max. If you want to have more and still use the Google platform, you have to use Google Meet, which you have to pay a subscription for. But Hangouts is great. Now, what we can do, I was looking at this and I was going, well, can I add a Hangouts link in there? But what I can do is, I'm going to go to, this is my classroom, so I'm going to show you my screen now. And I'm going to go to my apps and I'm going to go to calendar. Now in this calendar, I'm going to make an appointment. And I can add guests. So say I'm going to add in my learner from my class. And what I can do is I can add it by, underneath where it said location, add it as a Hangouts discussion and then save. Now what that'll do is that'll automatically send it to my learner and tell them that they have a Hangouts meeting there and then. Now it doesn't automatically call them. There's a few little things with it. Basically, it just puts a reminder in the diary for that student that they've got a Hangouts meeting, and then they click on the link in their calendar, which is on the classroom, and that'll take them straight to the Hangouts for them. Yeah, I completely agree, Nigel, with the ability to record is really key. Oh, Karen, you're 23. I'm behind the times. Behind the times. I need to upgrade it. Okay. So what I will do is I will go through Jamboard again. I'm more than happy to do that. For those that have gone over and looked at Jamboard, there is, oh, Beth put a little reminder. If you go to the top of the chat, you'll see I've put a link on there for the next week's session. So next week's session, which I'll put back on there for everybody, is I'm going to be looking at third-party applications, so a range of different software that's online that's not Google related, but we can still utilize and add to our Google Classroom. So we can kind of merge around bits and pieces and play around with it. So it's not just about you going, oh, this is just Google stuff. Actually, let's look at stuff. So I'm going to look at Nearpod, which I adore. I think Nearpod is wonderful. I'm going to use Glisser. I found another one which had a Slido, which they've all got bizarre names and stuff. So that's on there. If there's any more questions at all, put them in there, and then what I'll do is I'll drink this water and then go back over Jamboard, if that's okay. So thank you very much for coming tonight. If you don't want to watch Jamboard, enjoy your evening. You can't record the Hangout video calls. No, it's one of the things they've not done, which is a bit of a shame. But I'll give you a minute, and then I'll Jamboard again. Okay. Now those reprobates have gone. I'll teach you all the really cool stuff that I don't want to tell them. Jamboard. Jamboard is great. So if I go back to my teacher screen, in its simplest form, Jamboard is a there it is. So I've just got to hide me. Jamboard is basically Padlet. And what it is it's a collaborative tool to allow us to have a kind of add bits and pieces. So I've gone to Jamboard. I'm going to hit plus. I'm going to create a new one. And it's just going to give me a clear background. Now I can add some backgrounds to it. So if I want to put squares on there, it's fine. Now, one of the things I kind of looked at when I was doing this was I was trying to create activities that we could create for it. Google image search has got absolutely loads of kind of like things. So I just put in like plant diagram and label diagram and stuff. So I don't know, you could think as, you know, label circuit diagram. So I'm just putting stuff in here, and I could, there'll be like a blank there. There's a blank one. So I can put in a very simple image, and then I'm going to call this one circuit diagram.
Sorry, Julian, I can't see the screen.
Oh, can you not?
No.
How about now?
No.
Can no one see the screen?
No.
How about now?
No.
How about now?
No.
No.
You've missed all the best bits. How about now?
No.
No.
Why is my screen died? How about now?
No.
What's going on here?
I can see it.
Who can see it?
Anna.
What can you see, Anna?
I can see your Google Classroom 2 page.
Yeah.
Can you? Okay, you can see that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we can see that, but we can't see the.
There we go. It's changed
yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Should we start again?
Please.
I was really good until 8 o'clock, and then past 8, it's gone. It's gone. Okay. So all I've done here is I've gone to Jamboard. I'm going to create a new jam. And it's just a collaborative sharing. It's like a notice board. Now, what I was showing earlier was I can add an image, and I can either upload one. So if you've actually, say you've got a diagram you've been working on before, I can upload it. But the great thing is I can just go to Google image search. And I'm just going to type in blank circuit diagram. Let's find one that I like the look of. There we go. Nice and simple. Wonderful. Now, I can do a few things here. I can either actually put in little post-it notes for them. There we go. And I can do that. Or I can actually not put them in. The choice is yours. You're the guys in charge. And then once I've done that, close it down. I'll go back to my classroom. I'm going to set the student a little task. So I'm going to say, label the circuit diagram. And I'm going to add, because it was the most recent thing that I've just worked on, I'm going to add that circuit diagram. Now, what I said here is if I have students can view the file, they can't edit it. If I have students can edit the file, it means the whole class collaborates on the same document, just one document, which for something like that circuit diagram is too much. But I can also have it as make a copy for each student. So that's not a problem. Once I've done that, I assign it. So let's go to my student. What they should be able to do in a second, once this has decided to work. There we go. They can see, label the circuit diagram. They can go on that board. This is the one I've just created, and they can move the little post-it notes, and that's it. And once they've done that, they can close it down, and it's submitted. So there they go. They can turn it in, and it's not a problem. Now, what I'm going to do for next week is I'm going to show you some things I've done in the past with my learners using the same software. But you can do so much. So I've done it where I've put little headings in, and they've got to put their beliefs underneath. I think someone wrote earlier that they used it quite a lot. It's about just playing around with it. You can get loads out of it, and it's for something that's so simple. Effectively, it's just giving a class a big bit of flip chart paper, and it saves on you having to carry it from room to room, and then it gets stored in your office and make a mess everywhere. So it's quite nice. The notes, I've got handouts. My intention is to add you all to a Google Classroom for next week. I'm going to put all my handouts and instructional guides are all on there. But no, play around, enjoy it, and hopefully I'll see you all next week. So thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you later on.
Thanks very much indeed.
Great. Thanks again. Thank you. Great. Thanks again. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Hi,
Beth.
Julian. How are you? You okay?
I'm good. I might just sit here staring at people.
Well, we've already had like 30 bookings already for next week.
It's
People
fantastic.
went straight from here to book.
We had so many more numbers on tonight than we did last week.
Yeah.
Which